Imagine a map of the United States of America. Now draw a line from the top left corner to the bottom right corner, and another line from the top right corner to the bottom left corner. You have just divided the country into 4 regions: the Northeast, the Southeast, the Southwest, and the Northwest. Now look at the region in the middle where the 2 lines cross. This is the center of the USA, also known as the Heartland. It is composed of 12 states: North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. These states have a lot in common. They're mostly flat, rural, agricultural, and conservative. They're also home to some of the most iconic landmarks and cultural symbols of America, such as Mount Rushmore, the Grand Canyon, the Alamo, and the Mississippi River. But there is something else that these states share. They are losing people. According to the latest census data, the center of the USA has a combined population of about 100 million, which is less than a third of the total US population of 330 million. Moreover, these states have a lower population density, lower economic growth, lower income, lower education, and lower diversity than the coastal regions. Some of these states are among the least populated, least developed, and least diverse in the country. Why is this the case? What are the factors that make the center of the USA less attractive for people to live in? Is it the climate, the culture, the politics, the opportunities, or something else? In this article, we will explore these questions and try to understand the challenges and opportunities that the Heartland faces in the 21st century. One of the factors that makes the center of the USA less appealing for people to live in is its geography and climate. The Heartland covers a vast area of about 2.3 million square kilometers, which is larger than the European Union. However, unlike the EU, which has a diverse and varied landscape, the center of the USA has a mostly flat and arid landscape, which makes it unsuitable for agriculture and urban development. The center of the USA consists of 2 major geographic regions: the Great Plains and the Gulf Coast. The Great Plains stretch from the Canadian border to the Mexican border, and from the Rocky Mountains to the Mississippi River. They're characterized by rolling hills, grasslands, and prairies, with few trees and rivers. The Gulf Coast includes the states of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas, and borders the Gulf of Mexico. It is characterized by lowlands, swamps, bayous, and deltas, with rich soil and abundant wildlife. The geography of the center of the USA affects its climate, which is unpredictable and extreme. The center of the USA experiences 4 distinct seasons, but they're often marked by sudden and severe changes in temperature, precipitation, and wind. The center of the USA is also prone to natural disasters, such as tornadoes, blizzards, droughts, floods, and heat waves, which make it uncomfortable and dangerous for people to live in. Some examples of recent natural disasters that affected the center of the USA include the 2023 Texas power crisis. A historic winter storm hit Texas in February 2023, causing widespread blackouts, water shortages, and deaths. The storm exposed the vulnerability of the state's electric grid, which was not prepared for the extreme cold and high demand. The crisis lasted for several days, leaving millions of Texans without power, heat, or water, and causing billions of dollars in damage. Another disaster is the 2022 Midwest floods. A series of heavy rainstorms and snow melt caused massive flooding in the Midwest in March and April 2022, affecting more than a dozen states. The floods breached levees, submerged roads and bridges, damaged crops and livestock, and displaced thousands of people. The floods also threatened the safety of several nuclear power plants, which had to be shut down or reduce their output. The floods were the worst in the region since 1993 and caused an estimated $10 billion in losses. Another disaster is the 2021 Louisiana hurricane. 2 powerful hurricanes, Laura and Delta, struck Louisiana in August and October 2021 respectively, causing widespread devastation. Laura was the strongest hurricane to make landfall in Louisiana since 1856, with winds of 240 kilometers per hour and a storm surge of 5 meters. Delta was the first hurricane to make landfall in the same place twice in one season, with winds of 175 kilometers per hour and a storm surge of 3 meters. The hurricanes destroyed homes, businesses, infrastructure, and natural habitats, and killed dozens of people. The hurricanes also exacerbated the COVID-19 pandemic, which had already hit the state hard. Another factor that makes the center of the USA less appealing for people to live in is its history and culture. The Heartland has a rich and diverse history, but also a history of conflict, oppression, and inequality. The center of the USA was originally inhabited by various Native American tribes, such as the Sioux, the Cheyenne, the Comanche, and the Cherokee. They lived in harmony with the land and had their own cultures, languages, and traditions. However, their way of life was disrupted by the arrival of European settlers, who claimed the land as their own and pushed the natives westward. Many Native Americans were killed, displaced, or assimilated by the settlers, who brought diseases, weapons, and alcohol. The center of the USA was also the scene of the American frontier, the expansion of the United States westward in the 19th century. The frontier was a place of opportunity, adventure, and freedom for many pioneers who sought to build farms, towns, and railroads. The frontier also represented the American spirit of individualism, democracy, and progress. However, the frontier was also a place of violence, lawlessness, and exploitation, where settlers clashed with Native Americans, outlaws, and each other. The center of the USA was also deeply affected by the Civil War, the bloodiest conflict in American history, which lasted from 1861 to 1865. The war was fought between the North and the South over the issues of slavery, states' rights, and territorial expansion. The center of the USA was divided, as some states joined the Confederacy, while others remained loyal to the Union. The war left a lasting legacy of bitterness, resentment, and division, especially in the South, which suffered the most casualties and destruction. The center of the USA also experienced the Dust Bowl, a period of severe drought and dust storms that ravaged the Great Plains in the 1930s. The Dust Bowl was caused by a combination of natural and human factors such as overgrazing, overplowing, and poor farming practices. The Dust Bowl ruined crops, killed livestock, and forced millions of people to migrate to other regions, especially California. The Dust Bowl also coincided with the Great Depression, a time of economic hardship and social unrest. The center of the USA also played a role in the Civil Rights Movement, a social and political movement that fought for the rights and equality of African Americans in the 1950s and 1960s. The movement challenged the system of racial segregation and discrimination that existed in the South and elsewhere. The movement used various tactics such as protests, boycotts, sit-ins, and marches to demand justice and change. The movement also faced violent opposition from white supremacists, who resisted integration and attacked civil rights activists. The movement achieved some landmark victories such as the Brown versus Board of Education decision, the Civil Rights Act, and the Voting Rights Act. The center of the USA has a conservative and religious culture, which may not appeal to people who have different values, beliefs, and lifestyles. The center of the USA is often referred to as the Bible Belt, a region where Christianity, especially evangelical Protestantism, is dominant and influential. The center of the USA tends to have more traditional views on social and moral issues, such as abortion, gun control, and immigration. The center of the USA also tends to have more patriotic and nationalist sentiments, as well as more support for the military and the Republican Party. The history and culture of the center of the USA creates a sense of identity and pride, but also a sense of isolation and resentment. The people at the center of the USA often feel misunderstood, ignored, or looked down upon by the people of the coast, who are perceived as more liberal, elitist, and cosmopolitan. The people of the center of the USA also feel that their values, interests, and needs are not represented or respected by the federal government, the media, and corporations. The people of the center of the USA also feel that their way of life is threatened by the changes and challenges of the modern world, such as globalization, immigration, and diversity. The final factor that makes the center of the USA less appealing for people to live in is its economy and opportunity. The heartland has a weaker and slower economy than the coastal regions, which are more dynamic and innovative. The center of the USA accounts for about 30% of the total US GDP, but its share has been declining over the past 2 decades. The center of the USA also has a lower GDP per capita than the national average, and the gap has been widening over time. The center of the USA also has a higher unemployment rate, a higher poverty rate, a lower median income, and a lower education level than the coastal regions. These indicators suggest that the center of the USA faces more economic challenges and hardships than the coast. The center of the USA also has fewer and fewer opportunities than the coastal regions, which offer more jobs, education, and entertainment. The center of the USA relies heavily on traditional sectors and industries, such as agriculture, energy, manufacturing, and tourism, which have been facing competition, disruption, and decline in the global market. The center of the USA also lacks the concentration and diversity of high-tech, high-skill, and high-wage industries such as technology, finance, media, and entertainment, which have been driving innovation, growth, and prosperity in the coastal regions. The center of the USA also has fewer and smaller metropolitan areas, which tend to attract more talent, capital, and culture than rural areas. The economy and opportunity of the center of the USA limit the potential and prospect of people who live there. They also explain why many people choose to leave the center and move to the coast, where they can find more and better options for their careers, education, and lifestyle.